Once I see the red dot, I see the red dot, so we're all good. Let me share my screen. And hopefully you can see the PowerPoint presentation or the slide presentation that I put together to do this. So thanks for doing this. I've got 45 minutes on the books. It's going to be about 30 minutes of kind of discussion with Sean and I kind of talking to you guys, and then 15 minutes of QA at the end. The topic or the kind of purpose for the webinar is to discuss using CRM for trucking dealerships. It's something that we know a little bit about, and of course Sean knows a great deal about, and so we'll jump into that as we sort of move down the page. I've got a quick agenda where we're going to kind of go through introductions, both BlackIron and then Sean. And then we're going to jump into how we work through this, what the kind of overview of how CRM can work with DMS, with Karmak, and then the metrics for CRM success that we've kind of put together with Sean as well. At the end, we've got some open time for Q&A. Just a quick shameless plug kind of up at the front. BlackIron is a Salesforce certified partner as well as a Karmak partner, and that jumped on its own. So we've got a lot of experience around both CRM and DMS, particularly integrating Karmak to Salesforce. Been doing this for a real long time, for over 19 years, and have a ton of customers, including many, many trucking dealerships out in the Salesforce/Karmak universe. We understand the data, we understand the API and moving data back and forth, and we can help kind of seamlessly put those two together. I'll introduce Sean for 30 seconds, but then I want Sean to jump in. So Sean works with Cox Automotive Mobility, used to be Dickinson Fleet Services. For 25 years, they've been kind of at the forefront of remote service and repair out in the world for trucking dealerships. Sean has been, I don't know how long you've been with Cox Automotive, Sean, but he's basically ran the project that we helped with Karmak and Salesforce for the last 4 years, and we've worked with him over that time as we put the project together. So Sean, do you want to do a better job than I just did kind
Absolutely.
of introducing yourself? Thanks.
I appreciate it, Dan. Yeah, thanks everyone for joining. As Dan mentioned, my name is Sean Russell. I am our Director of Sales Operations here within the Cox Automotive Mobility space. As Dan mentioned, I came on to Cox Automotive via an acquisition of Dickinson Fleet Services about 2.5 years ago. I have been with Dickinson Fleet prior to the Cox acquisition for just over 6 years at this point. And as Dan mentioned, Dickinson Fleet started in 1997 as a three shop venture, and has obviously since expanded over the last 25 years into a mobile and shop operation powerhouse, really with the backing of Cox Automotive, supporting our expansion and growth significantly over the last 2.5 years. So we're upwards of 1,800 mobile technicians that run around the country, supporting some of the largest fleets that are out there, in addition to 38 service centers we're up to now across the country that are bringing another breadth of services that we have to offer. And that is our bread and butter. We are think of the turning of the wrench, right? That's all we do is preventative and routine maintenance on fleets of vehicles, either at the facility, at our facility, or at the customer's facility. And then we source, train, and develop our entire workforce through very sophisticated training and coursework. So that's a little bit about ourselves. And as Dan mentioned, I spearheaded implementing a significant CRM overhaul about 2 years ago, as we transitioned under the Cox Automotive Mobility platform. As Dickinson Fleet, we did use Salesforce kind of out of the box, but in leveraging the BlackIron support about 2 years ago, we did do a complete revamp and built in a lot of different things and kind of made it a comprehensive solution for our sales team. So excited to talk a little bit more about it here in the near future, Dan.
Awesome. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. All right. So it kind of is a basic sort of overview. CRM and DMS data, I think together can make a huge difference for customers, right? I mean, Karmak is something that you guys, everybody on the phone, in theory, is relying on every day to kind of do inventory control, right? To manage parts inventory, to manage unit inventory, to figure out repair orders and get that piece scheduled, to basically do the accounting on the other side so that you could do the GL and pay your bills and get paid by everybody else. That whole kind of inclusive system gives you the ability to day-to-day run that business. With CRM added into it. So, but if I think about DMS kind of as the ERP for trucking dealerships, it sort of puts the product at the center of the universe, not in a bad way, but I mean, you've got to keep inventory control. You've got to do GL. You've got to have, average cost, and you've got to put all that stuff together. And that happens in a system like that, primarily at the product level. We believe that taking that data, all of that data that exists in Karmak, and bringing it into CRM gives us the ability to kind of turn that a little bit on its head and put the account record or the customer record at the top of that, and sort of use the data that we're getting from Karmak to turn it around and put the customer kind of front and center with that data. Bringing in stuff like inventory, or bringing in sales orders or repair orders, parts orders, invoice information, lease and rental kind of units, having that data in the system and being able to build reports and dashboards and analysis on it, I think gives you the ability to take that data and kind of bring it to a whole new level. When, to Sean's point, when they started at Dickinson, they were sort of using Salesforce out of the box, what Peter and I call the big four, kind of leads, accounts, contacts, and opportunities, sort of that basic CRM sort of function. When we got Karmak sort of data involved, we were able to take that and spin it up into an entirely different level, including some very cool pricing things, some really cool analysis around kind of how customers look in terms of the different segregation, right? What do parts and repairs look like at the various customers? Combining those two pieces of information gives you data that you don't have in either place altogether, but combining them gives it to you in a really different and interesting way. Sean, anything to kind of add about how that data sort of relates to itself?
Yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head, right? I mean, we are bringing in a lot of what Dan has talked about, from Karmak directly into our Salesforce instance. And to his point, it has created a lot more visibility for our entire sales team, just to understand, the overall health of every client, right? And in one spot, right? Because we're obviously, as a sales organization, as we continue to grow, we want to drive more and more compliance within the CRM. And this has helped us dramatically do that, versus having to go to multiple different data sources to understand what's going on with a particular client. The other piece, Dan, that I will mention is, we had a very antiquated customer setup process prior to our overhaul of Salesforce, right? So we've been able to do some things as well, just to keep all of our sales team members in the CRM as much possible. So we've built in some streamlined customer setup processes as well that flow directly from the sales cycle that our teams are going through, all the way through to the actual acquisition of a customer, to the setup of the customer within Karmak. And that flow is all built within Salesforce, and then obviously going through to Karmak, and then vice versa. Once we establish, a cadence with that client, we start seeing that client data start building into Salesforce. So it's kind of a big circle from front end all the way to back end.
Awesome. Once we kind of understand how that data works, we can start to make sense of some of the information in Karmak and translate it or utilize it in CRM. And some of this is built around dealerships, maybe not necessarily germane to Dickinson, to Cox, but knowing what the vehicles kind of look like in terms of inventory out in the system gives you the ability to bring that into Salesforce. We can then, and I didn't put this in a bullet, but we can take the information in Salesforce and then drive it out to, BuzzNerd or Truck Paper or Dealer Spike or any of the guys that sort of syndicate websites for trucking dealerships, so that the inventory in Salesforce can be the driver, particularly around photos and that kind of stuff that Salesforce does really well, to push that out into the world. In addition to kind of that, we can use the information once we've got it there to build out deals, right? Basically kind of be the deal desk inside of Salesforce. And not every customer does this for sure, but it's a really cool way to kind of use CRM because it's easy to carry around in your pocket, right? Obviously, on the mobile app, it's easy to kind of work with in the field, and it's fairly easy to kind of learn as a sales rep as you sort of work through it. Same is true for parts orders. We can bring parts orders and starts parts orders in Salesforce and move those up into Karmak, or start them in CRM and move them up to Karmak. And so there's some interesting ways to kind of take the two systems and use functionality in them together to sort of move data. I think the biggest piece, though, is that analytical piece, bringing that data down and kind of merging it with the customer information to put it together. All that is done through APIs. Most CRMs, Salesforce included, has an API, and Karmak has a really slick API that gives us the ability to kind of move that data back and forth. Understanding how that works is key, right? And kind of being able to translate the methods. There's a ton of methods, and there's more every day from Karmak to bring them down into Salesforce. But once you can kind of merge those two systems together, you get a much broader kind of appeal at what you're looking at. Sean, anything kind of on how that can work? I realize you guys don't do deals directly in Salesforce, but kind of the idea of mixing, I don't know, processes, I guess.
Yeah, so we don't do deals specifically, within Salesforce. We do. I mean, that is something that we are looking at doing, right? We have since acquired a large trailer distributor here in the last year, and that's all they do is sell equipment, right? Parts and equipment. And they are currently not on a CRM, but we have a roadmap in place to help get them into our CRM, and have the intent of potentially looking at doing something like that, where the deal starts in the CRM and flows into Karmak. So a lot of good things that can come from it.
So this is a slide I wanted to spend the most time on, just to kind of talk about, and I think this is where Karmak kind of wanted us to help you guys sort of begin to think about, merging CRM and Karmak together, is that none of this is automatic. No, there is no magic wand. I say at the bottom here, Harry Potter's not real. So there's a lot of work that goes into these projects. And I think this is the thing that everybody needs to be realistic about as we think about it. And I kind of broke it up into three piles: enablement, focus, and common sense. And so I'm going to kind of take it in that three piles. So we start with enabled. I think if we have a clear and stated kind of goal, we have something to work towards, right? A good project plan, an idea of where we're going. If we're just sort of merging along and trying to find functionality that exists in a CRM and sort of, that would be cool, and let's use that. I don't think a whole lot of people get any value out of that. Sorry? Oops, sorry. Okay. I don't think anybody gets a whole lot of value out of that. The second thing is, if we can get management backing, particularly at the kind of C or V level, they can help us make sure that the project continues. One of the things that Peter has said at other clients, we had a couple of clients where they basically, the management team kind of said, this is the direction that we're going to go on. And even as users are sort of struggling with it, and maybe the lower kind of level executives were struggling with it, having somebody at that top level made a huge difference in making sure that we were going to make that project happen. And I think alternatively, if we don't have that, the project tends to, I'm working on a project now in a different business where the management team's not involved, and it's just taken forever because we can't get those people to kind of work the project with us. Getting the right people involved, I think, is a real important piece, particularly people who understand the business process, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a technical resource who understands all the ins and outs of an API and how data moves back and forth. But if you've got good business sort of level people involved, it's going to make a huge difference in making sure that we can translate those processes that you're using now, improve those processes, and then turn those into things that work within the CRM. And then at the end, if your team is the one that's making the decision on how this is going to work, we need to have authority to basically do that. Nothing's really going to work if we kind of propose different ideas and then nothing goes anywhere. So enabling our team to kind of get through that, I think ultimately makes a huge difference. And Sean, I mean, when we kind of did the project, we had, I think, all of those things, at least in different levels right from the beginning.
To the service counter, David, to the service counter.
Yeah, I was gonna say absolutely, Dan. We certainly did. Obviously, the biggest piece for us was we knew that we needed to go down the path of gaining compliance in a CRM platform, right? So, obviously we had buy-in from the highest level leaders in terms of why we needed it, what we were doing, et cetera, right? And to your point, I've got a lot of non-technical experience, right? I don't know I don't know the first thing about APIs and some of that technical piece, but I know how all the functions of the business operate and how the systems work, right? So creating that vision, in conjunction with the senior leadership has helped drive, ultimately the compliance, and that's exactly what we're trying to do, right? We wanted to try and find ways to make it easier for our sales teams to gain that compliance, right? And that was the primary driver. And the more and more we built into one system, we knew that we were going to be in a better position for all of our sales teams to be in there day in, day out, and ultimately the visibility and the data that we're getting out of it, and ultimately the incremental revenue and growth that we've seen from tying it all together has been tremendous.
Awesome, thanks. So the second piece that I kind of took as the 3 bullets was be focused. I think clear objectives is kind of the same as a clear and stated goal, but knowing what we're going to do at the beginning of and understanding that, projects move, right? Timelines for sure move, but even priorities change as a project sort of happens. But understanding at the top level what a clear objective is for the project, I think helps us make sure that where we start and where we end have some sort of, linear sort of progression. The second one, focus on data integrity. I can't stress this enough, but if you as a client who are going into a CRM project, particularly with a Karmak integration piece, can focus in like hawks on the data itself, it will make an enormous difference. And I'm not saying that users are looking for excuses to not do it, but nothing kills a project quicker and more completely than data integrity issues. And the APIs out to Karmak work exactly like they say we do, right? We go get customers, but they're inactive customers in your Karmak instance probably. And if we bring those into Salesforce, does that cause us problems? Or bring them to CRM? Sorry, I'm Salesforce focused, but you bring them into CRM, does that cause problems? We don't know that answer. Somebody's got to be focused in on that data like a hawk to make sure that what we get and what we bring in and what we present in terms of dashboards and reports all make sense, are all accurate, and are all helpful. Keeping things simple, kind of making the tool as frictionless as possible, right? But one of the guys that runs projects for us says we want to make sure at the beginning that we get the data we need, maybe not all the data that we want. And so if we can just get focused in on the basic kind of minimum pieces of information that we need, it makes a huge difference in making sure that the users have an easy and streamlined way to kind of get through the system. And then finally, in the focus piece, be open to possibilities. Because we've always done it that way, is a thing that you hear in projects all the time. And if you can sort of get yourself out of that mindset and focus in on the possibility of what can happen in CRM or the possibility of what can happen in Karmak and bringing that data down, I think you have terrific kind of possibilities to have much better results. Sean, anything on, especially on data integrity?
Yeah, no, that's the part I was going to bring up, right? We didn't know what we didn't know in terms of data coming through, but we kept an eye on it. We worked closely with BlackIron to understand exactly what's coming in. But to Dan's point, we found out quickly for some of those inactive clients specifically that kind of threw some of the data off. But obviously having eyesight on it and having familiarity with what the data entails was helpful in terms of getting that right and figuring out exactly what we needed to be pulling in and pulling out.
Great. And then finally, kind of use common sense or sort of be prepared to have the project be a lot of work. Anything in any project, when you guys put in Karmak, it was the same. When you put in CRM, it's going to be the same. What you put into it is largely it kind of gauges what you get out of it. And so having a team of people who are smart, who know the processes, who are willing to change, who have the ability to be open to possibilities and work hard to make that happen alongside the consultant that's kind of helping with you, that is going to make a huge difference. I I meant to say CRM. I have one typo in here with Salesforce, but knowing that CRM isn't magic and that Harry Potter isn't real, CRM takes work, right? It's just gonna be a slog to kind of get through some of this, and iterating through processes and iterating through kind of configuration changes in any CRM or in the integration out to Karmak is gonna be tedious is the wrong word, but it's going to be time consuming and it's going to take a while to kind of get through that. And then finally understand that your users on the other side who have never, some of them probably have never used CRM before, are going to have learning curve, right? There's going to be some struggle in how they get used to using a CRM. And honestly, everybody loves progress, everybody hates change. So there's going to be a ton of kind of, I don't want to do this and I don't like this. And I, remember when we used to just go out and shake hands and kind of work through it. There's going to be a lot of that. So have some patience with your team, understanding that all that stuff that you went through when you did the project and got the software set there, now it's their turn to go through that and just, kind of be patient with them. Sean, anything kind of?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. It's not easy by any means, right? There's a lot that goes into it. So having the team available around you to provide feedback, provide insight, right? We leveraged a lot of input from our entire sales team, primarily because they're users of the instance, right? And we want to make sure that whatever vision we're painting makes sense for them, makes their lives easier, right? And providing the data is valuable for all parties at B. But it's a long process, and for us it was a lot of new things happening, obviously. So there was a lot of trial and error and determining what was the primary focus, what made sense, what didn't. Has taken it definitely took some time, but overall at the completion of the entire project was well worth it.
Awesome. Okay. So that took 7 minutes less than I thought it was. So the next piece is for questions. So if anybody has questions for either me or Sean, please unmute and let us know what we can help with. Well, maybe we don't have questions. I don't know. That's a possibility, I guess. One thing that I can say is if anybody's interested in seeing what this can look like with a Salesforce solution, that's all I've got access to. But we've got a demo org that I could show people in kind of individual sessions if you want to be kind of at least see what the possibilities look like. I'm happy to do that. We can talk about that offline through emails. And then on our website, we've built some videos that kind of show it as well. So people could look at that and get a feel for how this goes together. Any questions at all? Oh, there's one. Yeah. Sorry, Jared. I see you unmuted, but I don't hear you. Sorry. Maybe the mic isn't working. Well, I don't want to keep everybody on the line if there are no questions. So if there are no questions, I'll send a recording of this. I'll also extend the offer and a thank you email if people want to see a demo of what this can look like. And I greatly appreciate Sean's input and help with this. I appreciate the time, and I hope at least we've kind of opened up some possibilities with CRM integration to Karmak. And we don't want to scare anybody and tell you that it's it's a fool's errand to do. It's not. You can absolutely be successful at it. Just kind of go into it with eyes wide open and understand what your goals are at the end, and you'll come out with a better version of both systems in our mind. All right, everybody. Well, thank you very much, Sean. Thank you very much for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been fun, and if any same thing as Dan mentioned, any questions that may come up that you need support with, or help with, I'm happy to help in any way and provide insight as well.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Look for a email here in a second with the link to this.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.